my laziness actually doesn't need any encouragement.
No, it doesn't.
All right, welcome to Talking Shop. We are back at it again. Before you do anything, like it, a little thumbs up, subscribe, and that way you get these when they come right up every week. But we are looking today at Mark chapter 9, 30 through, right?
37.
Yeah.
30 to 37. Passion prediction, Jesus foretelling his death and resurrection. And then he kind of catches the disciples off guard with a little conversation about who's the greatest. And it's good stuff. It would be a fun, I think, text to preach, actually. So we will, we'll get after it.
Leave away, spit out my Lord in every way. Yet I'm still welcome in the arms
Shall we?
of the King.
All right. Mark 9, 30 to 37.
I have punched and
It went
been
on
knocked
from
down.
there. Starts.
Where's there?
Where is there? Or where is
We
it?
don't know where there is. There is at the base of the mountain of Transfiguration.
Yeah,
So I
so
think-
yeah, sort of the context, right? Comes down Mount Transfiguration. We talked last week about the healing of the boy with the unclean spirits, and that great line, "I believe, help my unbelief," right,
Yeah.
and all that. So from that, though, he passes on through Galilee, and he doesn't want anyone to know.
Right.
It's a strange little detail. Mark, who is not usually kind of free with the details, kind of just gets you right where you need to go. Well, what's that about? What do you think's going on?
Well, it actually says he was teaching his disciples. So there's things that, and you could actually probably do a sermon about this with your people there gathered in the pews, that there's a time in which all of the other focuses, all of the other distractions need to be set away.
Yeah.
And there needs to be a focus time for, now we're really going to dive in deep and look at this in a serious manner. He wants to, well, he knows his time's getting short. He wants to teach his disciples, because what he teaches them is, I'm not going to be with you forever.
Right.
And Peter has already demonstrated this lesson is required, because the first
yeah.
time Jesus brought it up in Mark chapter 8, Peter rebukes Jesus, no, never should you suffer and die and all this.
Yeah.
And Jesus returns the favor, rebukes him back. Get
Right.
behind me, Satan,
Yeah.
to Peter. You have in mind the things of man, not of God.
Yeah.
So it's a necessary teaching,
Yeah.
something he's preparing them for. But it's, I guess, going back to what you were saying, Matt, this is not kind of for everybody.
Right.
Yet, maybe.
Right.
I'd say. Like, so there's this this kind of tighter group that he's addressing, that he needs to address. And that's his focus here, right?
Yeah.
So he teaches them, just as disciples, doesn't want anyone else to know about it, that the Son of Man is going to be delivered in the hands of men, and they'll kill him, right?
Yep.
And
After,
when he has been killed,
after he's been killed.
right?
Yeah. Not after he dies, after
Right.
he's been killed.
Yeah, it's very clear in the text, right? After 3 days, he will rise.
Rise.
And the disciples immediately, they're like, all right, give us the details. Let us know.
No.
when."
No.
No.
They did not understand the saying, and were afraid to ask
Yeah.
about it.
They look at Jesus and go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, they had
Right.
oftentimes followed up like the demon-possessed boy. They asked him later, why couldn't we cast out that demon? So they were in the habit of asking
Yeah.
follow-up questions.
Sure.
Here they do not.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in the next section, we find out why they're not, because they're actually focused on something else.
They weren't too proud about it.
And there's a little flip you can make here. They're focused on their own selfishness and salvation,
They weren't proud about their
and
pride.
Jesus is focused on his sacrifice and selflessness.
What a contrast.
So you get this contrast here
Massive
of the
contrast
two events as
Right.
well. Yeah.
So it is this, it's a great moment, I think. I don't know, being like a parent, you can kind of see this where like you're kind of talking one thing, and your kids' minds
Yeah.
are somewhere
Oh, yeah.
all the way different.
Yeah.
And then, like, so the next scene when they get to Capernaum and they sit down in the house, it's sort of like Jesus, kind of like as that, in a sense, sort of like a father figure, kind of leans in. It's like, hey, what are you guys talking
Yeah,
about? You know,
right.
like he's going to expose this,
Yeah.
Right.
He's going to kind of break this down. So he's teaching them about, as you said, his selflessness,
Yeah.
right? That sacrifice is going to be given.
Right.
They don't ask any questions. They don't
Right.
understand it.
Yeah.
And you can, maybe in a sermon, you could even mine that a bit. Like,
Sure.
do we even understand sacrifice? Like real sacrifice?
Right.
Do we understand
Yeah.
what it is to give your life this way? Like, I mean, this isn't just giving your life for some great cause or something. This
Sure.
is giving your life for sinners, like
Yeah.
horrible,
Yeah.
lowly people.
Yeah, this is Paul in Romans, right? While we were still sinners, Christ
Yeah,
died for us.
And not
right?
only
So-
do we understand that or not, but do we want to understand
Yeah,
it
it's
or
even
not?
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just, you know what? I'm not going to ask any follow-up
Yeah.
questions.
Is
I'm
it-
afraid.
Because whatever you say is probably going to implicate me
Yeah.
in some way,
Yes.
and I don't want to do that.
And it's probably not even important to me because that's not my
It's
focus
not
right
where
now.
my
That's not
mindset
where my
is.
mind is. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. So they get to Capernaum. They get to in the house, whatever house that is.
Another house.
And
Probably Peter's mother-in-law.
yeah,
Or Peter's house.
Yeah, and they ask, and he asks them. So they don't ask. So again, it's this reversal.
Yeah.
You kind of hint at this. They don't ask any questions. He doesn't mind asking questions.
Yeah.
No, it's another
We've had this
contrast.
quite a bit in Mark,
Yeah.
where Mark will use the same language to show the differences that are going on, and it's a vast contrast.
Right.
They didn't ask; he's asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's asking about what they were talking about while he was trying to teach them something, and so we know there's a disconnect here
Yeah.
Right.
that Mark's revealing to us.
So, yeah, he wants to know, what are you discussing on the way? So while they're on the road, the disciples, while not asking Jesus questions about the big thing he was teaching,
Yeah.
are having their own conversation.
Yeah, are doing a little
Oh,
bit of
boy.
showboating. What are they? Not grandstanding, but when you're trying to kind of show off, it's like the bucks during rut, right? Kind of strutting around.
Yeah, right.
My antlers are bigger than your antlers,
Yeah,
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Right.
So
So they keep silent.
Plead the fifth
right.
on the grounds that it might incriminate me.
Yeah. They know. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
want to
we're
have
not
this
gonna do this.
conversation. Not with you, Jesus.
Uh-huh.
Because they were arguing. It says right. They were having a debate amongst themselves about who's the greatest.
Yeah.
This is. This is Matthew 18. This is that whole language of who's the greatest. There's a lot you can mine from this. This is, though, a problem.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
this is an easy, as preachers of the word, you shouldn't have to look too hard for examples
Yeah.
of this.
No.
Right?
And it was easy for
Yeah.
them to get there to that point of
Yeah.
arguing among one another. I mean, just pick a route. Could it be because some of the disciples could not cast out the demon, but the three bigwigs think if we were there,
Right.
we could have done it?
Yeah.
Is that the way they arrived
Yeah,
at
that's
it?
true. This is coming. Well, and they know that they're bigwigs because they got to go with
They
Jesus.
got to
so
go.
obviously they're the greatest because
Or
they got to experience this.
Jesus is talking about, I'm going to be taken out. And they're thinking, well, who's next to
Yeah.
the Lord? And
Who's stepping
Who's
up
the-
in that spot?
Yeah.
yeah, who's the greatest left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? You just pick your route.
Yeah.
But we're already inclined.
Who's going to be picking up that mantle of Elijah after he goes across the river? Yeah.
It could just simply be our sinful nature coming out. you
Yeah.
know.
Sure.
Doesn't take much to prompt it.
Yeah.
Does not. Yeah.
Well, and again, if I can show myself to be better than you, then I don't have to deal with my own frailties, because I always know that there's somebody below me, and
He's
that's
gotta deal with
that's
his
good
first.
enough. So
the
if
woman, Lord.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Or the serpent, Lord.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Passing the buck.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So he sits down, right? He assumes that spot of the teacher again
Yep.
with his 12, and he says to them, if anyone would be first, he must be last of all and a servant of
Wait,
all.
how does Jesus know that that's what he's supposed to say? They didn't tell him.
That's right. They did not tell him. And they realize, once again, they don't get to have secrets
Yeah,
from Jesus.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So he lays it out. You want to be first? That's what you're all talking about. Tell you what, you're the servant.
Yeah.
You are seeking the service of others. That's how you become first.
You'd be a deacon, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gnos.
Mike was a
Oh,
deacon.
man.
He gave
No
it
longer
up.
a servant.
Gave it up
Gave
for
it
$3.
up. No longer wanted to be first, I guess. That's the way it goes.
So you must be, last of all. That's how it is. And what does that look like? That is a servant of all. I mean, one of the great examples of this is with our Lord is in John's Gospel, right?
Sure.
The Maundy Thursday text, right? Jesus
Yeah.
getting down, stripping, washing feet.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this whole thing. Like this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like
Do you understand what I've done for you?
Yeah.
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 In Philippians 2, I think of two who
Emptying
being
himself.
equal with God
Yeah.
did not consider that
Equality.
something to be grasped,
Yeah.
cling to, but made himself a servant
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
obedient to death.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes its way into our prefaces as well in communion.
Yeah,
Becoming
right.
obedient
Yeah.
unto death, even death on a cross.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he makes this proclamation. This is what it looks like to be first, and then he does the one of the great sermon illustrations, right?
Always conveniently.
He grabs a child.
Yeah.
They're always handy.
They're always handy. They always seem to be around when he needs one.
That's right. Yeah.
So it just says he took a child and put him in the midst of them, right? And so it's your ultimate object lesson.
Yeah.
And he takes him in his arms, says, "Whoever receives a child like this, in my name receives me. Whoever receives me receives not me, but him who sent." So he, like the continuation of that moves
Yeah.
all the way up
Yeah.
to God, right?
Is it possible that a caretaker of children was seen as somebody less? And I know the children were kind of seen as
Sure.
lowly.
Right.
Yeah.
But here he becomes, what's interesting about it, I guess, is to some extent, he becomes the servant even of a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? He becomes the servant of the least among them
Sure.
in that sense and says, this
Sure.
one is more important than I am
Yeah.
in this moment.
Yeah.
Flips the whole societal
Yeah.
value system
Right.
on its head.
Yeah, and I think
Everything's turned upside
I think
down.
that's the great. We couldn't do the same thing. I don't think we would probably put a child in our midst if we were going to talk about the least among us.
Yeah, that's actually a great. That could be a great thing in a sermon. Like you could literally do that. You could pick up a child. Like I did that once years ago when it was one of my children. We're sitting there and I told my wife, I'm going to I think it was Julianne at the time. She was little, a couple years old, and held her up.
Right.
But to your point, that doesn't hold the weight that this would.
Yeah, no.
See, for them, they saw that little as like that's the least. This is just a needy little thing.
Yeah.
Well, like we have this. We've created a whole culture of the innocence and the beauty and wonder of children. All
Right.
Yeah.
That there's probably something in your community that you can single out that they would all agree is far less.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to maybe focus in on that, whatever that is,
Yeah.
and speak of being in service to that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
That becomes now something much more profound.
Yeah. Maybe it's a homeless person.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a forgotten senior in a care center somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it is somebody of another culture that's moving in.
Yeah,
I can think of
immigrant.
some of the immigration that has happened in places in
Illegal
our country.
alien or something
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's whatever it's going to be. It's going to be those whatever's on that kind of fringe of the fellowship. So like those that they're kind of there, and we're all happy they're there, but we don't mind that they're on the fringe. Like
Yeah.
they're hanging on way at the outskirts of it.
Yeah.
You're like, it's fine. They're around.
We don't put them in the midst of us.
We don't put them in the midst.
Yeah.
And here's this pulling this one
Yeah.
into the middle.
And
Yeah.
holds that one up as the exemplar.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
you must become. This is what you must value. Totally flipped on its head.
Yeah.
How are we going to serve this one?
Yeah.
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 And Jesus even says that there's a bigger reality when you do that.
Yes.
That it's not just about that individual, it's actually then
goes far indeed.
receiving, it's actually taking on and embodying Him. And when you embody Him, obviously, then this is the great relationship in John's gospel. You're not receiving Him; you're receiving the one who sent Him.
Goes all the way to the top.
All the way to the top. Yeah.
So if you want to connect, and again, looking at kind of the idea, even of the greatest, if you want that connection to God, you don't seek it out within yourself.
Right.
You seek it out in actually doing the work that God has given you among those around you.
Yeah.
And this, as Luther points out, on Christian liberty, right? Remember that tract back in 1520? This is not burdensome. This is not restrictive. This is freedom. I mean, that's the other name of that tract, Christian freedom. A Christian is a perfectly free Lord of all, subject to none in Christ. But a Christian is also a perfectly dutiful servant of all, subject to all. So this is consistent with the message of this passage.
So great. I mean, a lot of opportunity to kind of explore some imagery in your preaching. It's just, I think maybe kind of challenge your people a bit to make them uncomfortable.
Sure.
And to see that this is exactly what Christ has done for them. Right? He has embraced them in their brokenness and their sin. And that this connection, this life we now live is bound into one of service.
So you're saying pastors are servants, like deacons?
Sometimes.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
That's a lot. That's a lot to swallow.
I'll drink to that.
All right. As I said, like and subscribe. Check out craftofpreaching.com. There'll be a great article there that'll deal with this text as well, along with the other texts for this Sunday. And usually an essay that kind of challenges your preaching as well. So check it out. Continue to leave some comments, and God bless your preaching.